Have you ever felt this? You've been studying English for months, maybe years even. You've learned vocabulary, watched tons of videos, got all the apps. But then when it's actually time to speak, you just freeze up, you hesitate, the words disappear, and you're just left thinking, why am I still not fluent? If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely not alone. This deep dive is specifically for you. Our mission today, to really understand why this happens, why we hit that plateau, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. We're drawing on some great insights from a really valuable guide on confident speaking. Okay, so before diving into the why we feel stuck, I was really struck by how this guide tackles the idea of fluency itself. What did you find maybe surprising about how it defines fluency versus, the common perception?
That's a great starting point. Because, most people think fluency means like zero mistakes, speaking super fast, using only complex words. But the guide points out something critical. A lot of learners are basically chasing the wrong idea, and that holds them back. It gives a much more, achievable definition. Fluency is the ability to express yourself clearly, smoothly, and comfortably without too much hesitation or mental translation. So it's really about flow, confidence, and just communication. And crucially, it adds that native speakers aren't perfect either, which is so true. So this raises a big question for you. Is the picture of fluency you have in your head actually stopping you before you even start?
That reframing, focusing on flow, not perfection.
Yeah,
that really resonated. Makes it feel much more possible. But okay, even with that better definition, lots of us still feel stuck. Reading through the guide, one part really jumped out about why we struggle to actually use the English we've learned. What did the source identify as the main practical reasons for that?
Well, the guide highlights a pretty fundamental imbalance. The first big reason is spending way more time consuming English than actually practicing it. You might be doing loads of input, watching videos, reading, listening, which is good. It's necessary for understanding. But it's just not enough to get you speaking. Think about it, like you don't get good at football just by watching games, right? Or become a great musician only by listening. The guide really hammers this home. You become fluent by speaking. It talks about the production advantage, basically actively retrieving and using language. That does something different in your brain. It strengthens those pathways way more than just passively taking it in. So you need more output. Things like speaking out loud, talking to others, recording yourself, shadowing, maybe joining a conversation group. If you're spending, say, 90% of your time just watching or listening, try flipping that ratio. Spend more time actually producing the language, even if you're just talking to yourself at first.
And that idea of producing, activating those pathways, it links straight into another huge roadblock one pretty much everyone feels, that fear of making mistakes. I mean, nobody likes sounding silly or feeling embarrassed. It's universal. But the guide gives us a really important way to rethink mistakes, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the bigger picture, your brain actually needs those mistakes to learn and grow. The guide explains that each mistake is like a little data point for your brain. It helps your internal language system figure out how English actually works. It's not just about repeating things correctly. It's this iterative process, trial and error, which is how we master complex skills. So your fluency needs that risk-taking. It needs repetition, yes, but also the attempts that don't quite work. Think about it. Every fluent speaker you admire, they definitely made hundreds of mistakes, probably daily when they were learning.
Yeah, good point.
So the advice is clear. Make mistakes, but do it with confidence. Laugh about them, learn from them, and just keep moving forward.
That makes so much sense. Like mistakes are just experiments for your brain. Okay, so a third hurdle the guide mentions is not having a system or a routine. It uses a great analogy. Learning a language without a plan is like trying to build a house without blueprints. You end up with maybe lots of materials, but no real structure. Nothing holds together. So this prompts some questions for you, the listener. Do you know what your weak points actually are right now? Are you tracking your progress in any way? Do you know what you should be practicing today?
And if the answer is mostly no, the guide suggests setting up a simple, repeatable routine. Doesn't have to be complicated. Something like 10 minutes listening, 10 minutes speaking or shadowing, 10 minutes learning some new phrases, maybe 10 minutes reviewing.
Okay, that sounds manageable.
Exactly. That's just 40 minutes a day. The real power isn't the amount of time, it's the consistency. Our brains love that regular engagement. Small, consistent actions. They lead to, big fluency gains over time. It creates this positive feedback loop.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about some deeper, often kind of hidden mental blocks. These go beyond just practice habits. Sometimes the reason we're stuck isn't just about what we're doing, but what's going on, inside our heads. The first one is huge. Not really believing in yourself. This can be so subtle. Maybe you catch yourself thinking things like, oh, I'll never sound fluent, or I'm too old for this, or I'm just bad at languages. But the guide says something really powerful about those thoughts.
Yeah, what's really insightful is recognizing those are just thoughts. They feel real, but they aren't facts. And the problem is, the more you repeat them, the more your brain starts to believe them. It actually reinforces neural pathways that make it harder to speak. The guide talks about this self-fulfilling prophecy idea in language learning. Negative self-talk can lead to what psychologists call learned helplessness.
Wow.
So a much more powerful and accurate thought to practice is fluency is a skill. And like any skill, it absolutely can be built. It just takes consistent effort.
And related to that, the second hidden block, comparing yourself too much to others. It's so easy, isn't it? You hear someone speaking really confidently, maybe online or in a class, and you immediately think, I'll never sound like that.
But what's fascinating, or maybe just important to remember, is what you don't see when you do that. You don't see their whole journey, all the practice hours, the struggles they had.
Right. You just see the end result.
Exactly. You see the highlight reel. The guide gives a great reminder. You're not actually competing with other learners. You're competing with the version of you from yesterday. That's it.
That's a much healthier way to look at it.
Totally. Just aim to improve like 1% a day. Those small gains add up incredibly over time. That's where the real transformation is.
So, okay, we've identified the roadblocks, both practical and mental. What does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's move into actionable solutions. Things you can literally start doing today. These directly tackle the issues we've discussed. First up, the guide really recommends shadowing native speakers. How does that work exactly? And why is it supposed to be so effective?
Right, shadowing. Basically, you find some audio, could be YouTube, a podcast, anything with a native speaker talking clearly, and you just repeat what they say out loud right after them. Try to copy everything, the rhythm, the intonation, the pronunciation, like you're mimicking them.
Okay.
It's powerful because it trains your mouth muscles and your brain to actually produce the sounds and rhythm of English. It builds that muscle memory, and it helps you get the music of the language, the prosody. Plus, it kind of bypasses that step of translating in your head.
That sounds like a great active exercise.
Yeah.
But to really build on that output practice, the guide also suggests using daily speaking prompts.
Yeah, this is simple but effective. Every day, just pick a topic, could be anything. Talk about your childhood, describe your day, explain your favorite movie, then set a timer, maybe just 2 or 3 minutes, and speak out loud about it. The key rules are: try not to pause too much and really make an effort not to think in your native language first. Just go straight into English.
Forces you to retrieve the words.
Exactly. It strengthens that ability to access English directly, kind of like you have to in a real conversation.
Another tool, and this one might make some people cringe a little.
Yeah.
Record yourself speaking weekly. I know, listening back can feel weird, but why is this recommended?
Yeah, it can feel a bit strange at first. But it's such a valuable feedback loop. It's objective. Recording yourself lets you actually hear your progress over time, which is super motivating. And maybe more importantly, it helps you catch your own common mistakes or pronunciation issues that you might not notice otherwise. You get to self-correct without any pressure.
Makes sense. And for people wanting more interaction, tip number 4, join a speaking club or find practice partners.
Definitely. Even just once a week, actually talking with other people, learners or native speakers, makes a huge difference. It forces you into that real-time situation. You have to understand, respond, adapt to different ways of speaking, manage the conversation.
Yeah, the real deal.
Precisely. You can look for online language exchanges, conversation groups, or even just team up with a couple of other learners you know. This is where that risk and repetition really happens.
Okay, and the final tip, number 5, kind of broadens the idea of practice beyond just sitting down to study.
Yeah.
It's change your environment.
Yeah, this is about immersing yourself more naturally. Little things like changing your phone's language setting to English, following English-speaking accounts on social media, writing your shopping list or to-do list in English, even just talking to yourself in English while you're doing chores or walking somewhere.
Making it part of life.
Exactly. Make English part of your daily life, not just a separate study time. That constant low-pressure exposure really helps the language sink in, almost without you realizing it.
So, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, we really want to leave you with some encouragement. If you've been feeling stuck, listen. You're not bad at English. You're not broken. You are simply in the process. Fluency isn't some kind of magic trick, right? It's not something you just wake up with one morning.
Absolutely. And that raises the important question. How should we really view this whole journey? It's something you build day by day. It takes courage, yes. Effort, definitely, and patience. Lots of patience. The guide puts it really well. Your fluency is waiting for you, but it's on the other side of consistency. So here's something for you to think about, to mull over. Consider how those seemingly tiny, consistent actions, maybe it is just 5 minutes of speaking each day, or consciously shifting your self-talk from I can't to I'm building this, or embracing mistakes as data. How these small things aren't just steps towards fluency. In a way, they're the architects of mastery, not just in English, but in pretty much any skill you decide to pursue.